Howdy, back again at the storage unit, and this time I did a Spider-Man video not too long ago, Amazing Spider-Man, and I thought I'd follow up with some more Spider-Man comics. So here we go, the Amazing Spider-Man.
What, the box isn't labeled?
Yes, it's not labeled or anything, and Turkey Hill's very proud to be a part of comic book box history.
Have they said that?
No, not at all. So we'll get started. Last issue we left off at was 240 for the original video, so we'll pick up right here with 241. And of course, that's a Roger Stern and John Romita Jr. issue featuring the Vulture. So that's pretty cool.
It looks like a clown.
Yeah. And there's more of 242, the Mad Thinker. Here's 243, which is an interesting issue. The return of Mary Jane Watson. She'd been out of Spider-Man comics for probably about 40 issues, maybe even 50 issues at this time. So her return was kind of a big deal.
A major turning point in the life of Spider-Man.
Yeah. The comic tells all. There's 244, so those are pumpkin bombs, which means that's a Hobgoblin issue. Great stuff. 246, which this was a really interesting issue. This was just an issue of dreams of the various characters, and J. Jonah Jameson got to envision himself as a hero for once in this issue. So it's an interesting diversion. 247. This features the Thunderbolt or Thunderball, who is a I can't remember exactly what his history is, but so yeah. Anyway, here's 249. 248, of course, is missing. That's the issue that has the kid who collected Spider-Man, which is a very well-known Spider-Man story of a kid who has cancer, whose dying wish is to find out who Spider-Man is, and so Spider-Man goes and reveals his identity to him, and it's a really poignant issue and very, very highly regarded in Spider-Man lore. So unfortunately I don't have that one here, but this one's really great. This is a great Hobgoblin, and the Kingpin actually comes in and saves Spider-Man from an assault by the Hobgoblin for his own selfish reasons, but it's a really great issue.
The Hobgoblin saves him from an assault.
Kingpin saves Hobgoblin, sorry. And that's 250. This is a final battle between Spider-Man and the Hobgoblin, and final in quotes, because it's a not a final battle.
It's a comic book, so
yeah. So here's 251, which is unfortunately the end of is this the second to last? I think this might be the second to last issue in the Roger Stern run. So this is another great issue of Spider-Man, discovering things about Hobgoblin. Now, of course, Spider-Man 252 is missing, and that is obvious because that is the first appearance of the black costume in Amazing Spider-Man, and it's the first issue that appeared after Secret Wars had been published. But since the costume didn't appear in Secret Wars until Secret Wars 8, there were still 7 issues to go before you would actually understand why Spider-Man was in a black costume in issue 252. So an interesting time conundrum that nobody really seemed to care about because it was such a cool development in Spider-Man.
everyone's just like, oh, look, he's wearing a black outfit now.
Yeah. And it has strange characteristics that it obeys his thoughts and can make itself into various shapes and sizes. And of course, yeah, the black costume eventually becomes Venom, which is a huge incident in Spider-Man. So, but this is 253, the first appearance of the Rose, and his secret identity turns out to be really interesting as well. So kudos to Tom DeFalco and Roger Stern for, maybe it was just Tom DeFalco that did this, but that was a really good plot element. And 254, that's the Hobgoblin's battle wagon. So there's all sorts of interesting stuff going on. This was a really good time for Spider-Man. Spider-Man and the Red Ghost. This issue features the first appearance of Puma. Unfortunately, that's not in great shape, but this one's in better shape. So any of you Spider fans out there, this is a really great era of Spider-Man. So, and there's the second appearance of Puma. Now, 258. This is the issue that reveals all of the secrets of the costume. It turns out that Spider-Man goes to Reed Richards because he thinks his costume is behaving strangely, and it seems to be having an effect on him, and he doesn't really understand why. So that's when he finds out in this issue that this costume is alive. Is basically, I can't remember the word that Reed Richards used to describe it, but he discovers that it's alive, and then he actually has trouble getting the costume to leave him because the costume now knows that Spider-Man is aware of what it actually is, that it's a living thing, and then they encase it in a plexiglass case to prevent it from harming Spider-Man anymore. So it's a really pivotal issue in Spider-Man that we find out finally what the costume actually is and not just a costume. So I have a couple of copies of that if anyone's interested. Spider-Man 259, so he goes back to the red costume, or the red and blue costume. And a good another battle with Hobgoblin ensues. The photo cover. So I'm probably going to stop focusing on all this. This is Spider-Man versus a kid who has gotten his own tentacles. So just
Is it the kid Dr. Octopus?
I forget what he calls himself, but it's just there's some funny issues here. So here's Spider-Man versus I think it's some kid who got a
Maybe it's
frogman
Octo
costume.
Kid.
It might be. I'm trying to remember if that was as detailed as they got. Now, this is definitely one of my favorite issues of the era. This is written by Peter David, and it's one of the first times he's actually been, I think he was a writer on any Amazing Spider-Man book. And it's really a funny story. It takes Spider-Man into the suburbs, which of course his web swinging is is less
And
useful.
cometh the commuter.
Yeah, it's a really funny issue. So you know, it's just a perfect compliment for Spider-Man. This is a crossover with Secret Wars 2. The Beyonder turns an entire skyscraper into pure gold. So the city has to cordon it off and cart the building off piece by piece so that it doesn't wreck the world's economy. Spider-Man versus Firelord, another one there. Here's Spider-Man versus Mayhem. Is manslaughter. So it says Spider-Man and Puma and the Beyonder. So
What are the sticky notes for?
they're just prices at the time that I bought them. So clearly there'll be more now because it's been several years. So that's... And Spider-Man unmasked the Hobgoblin, and the face behind the mask is unbelievable when it happens. But
Why?
because it's Flash Thompson who's framed
Oh.
to be the Hobgoblin. And see, they show
But he's not
Flash.
really the Hobgoblin?
No, they show Flash there. So yeah, it's...
Hmm.
So it's really interesting. They're really doing some great stuff. I mean, I can't say enough about how good this era of Spider-Man was. The Roger Stern, Tom DeFalco was a really great compliment to the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Stan Lee, John Romita issues. So there's 281, 282. I think I'm going to stop calling out the numbers until I get to...
Did that say Jack-o'-lantern on one of those?
Could have. He's definitely a character that's in there. You're going way back now. Jack-o'-lantern is a character that's in there, so I'm not going to go all the way back now. There is Jack-o'-lantern, actually. So yeah, so this is Gang War. And this is a series that ended Tom DeFalco's run. He stopped writing after this was concluded. That's 287. This is around the time that I think Daredevil was going through Born Again. So Daredevil was having a tough time in his own book, and this was a crossover that featured Daredevil at that time, which is an interesting idea, especially what was going on in Born Again. So there's Gang War.
It's hard to read in that setup.
Yeah, this is Spider-Man Peter Parker asked the big question. So Spider-Man gets married because he got married in the newspaper strip, so suddenly he was married in Spider-Man comics. The annual for this year covered the wedding, so... Funny how those things work, isn't it? So now here's 291. I don't remember who the writer of this was, but they were kind of in between writers because eventually David Micheline would take over. But at this time, I don't think they had a set path as to what Amazing Spider-Man would be. Now, this is one of the issues in the 6-part Kraven the Hunter, Kraven's Last Hunt series, which was very highly regarded, and people love this stuff. So that's a really good issue. And of course, here's part 5. So the other ones were in Web of Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man, and really excellent art and story. Just a great story for Spider-Man and Kraven. Made Kraven more than just like a passing villain in Spider-Man's history. Really increased his notoriety. Oh, this is 292, which is out of order. So this is another
unacceptable.
Yeah, this is another one of those issues where they were not really sure who was going to take over Spider-Man at the time. This is Life in the Mad Dog War, which was written by Ann Nocenti, and it has covers by Bill Sienkiewicz. 296, yet another issue where they're still not sure where they're going with it. And then, I don't have them here, but Spider-Man 298, of course, is the first Todd McFarlane Spider-Man. So that's a valuable issue. And then 299 has a Venom cameo, and then 300 is the first appearance of Venom, which is why I don't have any of those 3 issues here, because they're all valuable and sought-after issues. So Unfortunately, I don't have those, but I do have 304, and this is definitely a Todd McFarlane issue with the Fox. I think he's the Black Fox. So, and then these
It
are
looks
all,
like it just calls him the Fox.
yeah, these are all McFarlane issues now, where Spider-Man goes to California. I think he published a book of his photos. 306, which is a tribute to Action Comics #1. So it's a tribute to a Superman comic. 308, who kidnapped Mary Jane, an interesting story that was going on at the time. Mary Jane on
Did
the
you hear
cover.
about the kidnapping? Don't worry, he woke up.
Yeah. So there's Shrike Force. So these are all McFarlane issues. 312, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin. 314, 315, and no, I don't have 316 or 317. They're both Venom appearances, so unfortunately I don't have those either. Here's 320 though, with the Paladin. And this is the assassination plot. So this is part 1 of 6. I believe I have all of these.
Plot to assassinate Spider-Man.
I don't remember exactly what the deal was, but Paladin, Silver Sable. So we're coming up on the end of the Todd McFarlane run. So there's part 2, part
They're
3.
also coming up on the end of the box, so that kind of makes sense.
Part 4, Captain America. Part 5 with Sabretooth, who's a character associated with Wolverine, so he's quite popular. And finally, Assassination Part 6, of course, the Red Skull, Captain America. And 326. This is one of the last issues. I believe this has McFarlane art on the inside, but this is not one of his covers. That's an Eric Larson cover. That's Spider-Man Magneto. Cosmic Powers of Spider-Man. So there's a bunch of those. That's issue 329. This is issue 330, which features the Punisher, so everybody loves the good Punisher story. The Punisher, I have 3 or 4 of those. This is Heavy Metal. This is Mutant on Mutant Mayhem, Punisher again. So they got all sorts of stuff going on here. And what's Spider-Man without Venom at this time? He seemed to appear all the time. Return of the Sinister Six.
Well, as Red Skull said in
Part 1.
the Mission Marvel, Phineas and Ferb, this is Ziplash,
Yes.
this is Venom, and I am Red Skull.
Yes, you are.
You should really use some sunblock or something.
So this is Return of the Sinister Six, Part 2, I believe. That's Part 3. Someone dies. I forget exactly who it is. I think it might be Nathan Lubensky, but I can't remember.
It even says someone dies on the cover.
Yep, Part 4. Vulture, Dr. Octopus, Mysterio, Sandman, Electro, and Hobgoblin. So, watch out, Spidey. At last, Battle Royal. This is Spider-Man 338. And that is Spider-Man 339, where I think Dr. Octopus is trying to make a point here. So yeah, that's it for the second box of Spider-Man comics. So really some goodies in there. If anyone is interested, by all means, as usual, let me know via eBay comments or eBay messages, or make a comment on the video. And if you're interested, then we'll make a deal.
They can make it on eBay comments or leave a message on the video.
Either way. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.